Welcome back to the Lightning Rod Podcast with your host, Kevin Loftus. The Lightning Rod is proudly sponsored by EnviroSpark Energy Solutions. Well, hey, welcome back to the Lightning Rod Podcast and part 2 of my conversation with Aaron Luque from EnviroSpark. Make sure you stick around until the very end because we start talking about space and stars, and that's really fun. You're not going to want to miss it. A couple more questions. We've been talking for a while. I really appreciate your time.
I could talk for you.
Oh, dude, me too. I have a couple more quick questions for you today. First and foremost, we talked about the early days and the beginnings of EnviroSpark and what led you to here. Looking at the next year, or heck, even the next 5 years, what are some of your hopes, dreams, and goals, both attainable and maybe shots to the moon that you have that are top of mind?
Yeah, well, that's a lot in one question there. Man, there's so much opportunity now. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like when I say, we've been preparing for this moment. I mean, like this is the moment now. It's like EVs are taking over, and we are so well positioned to just explode in this space along with the rest of the market. And so we've been preparing for this for a long time. And so, for us, one of the next steps was going back to the multifamily piece, was just really digging in on providing access to charging in that sector. Like that's where we want to really make a difference, because it's been overlooked historically, and it's where it does the most good. I mean, for me, I think like getting charging stations, even if it's just a handful that are accessible to all the residents, I mean, it's so powerful for adoption. And so, we've had the benefit of really figuring out ways that we can help multifamily properties get those stations to serve their residents. And so for us, like that is a big focus, in the future, is to kind of be the premier multifamily provider. Yeah. And so, that was, I mean, the reason that we found out pretty early on that was like a great place to put this stuff, but it took a little while to figure out really like how to best serve those opportunities, because a lot of times, especially like condos or things like that, you got these HOA boards. When you're trying to get them to buy charging stations from us and pay us to install the stations, that's a tough ask when they don't have any EV drivers, which why would they? They don't have chargers, and so or maybe they have one person that wants to get an EV that's constantly complaining to them, and so that's a big challenge to go to them and say, hey, spend everybody's resources on this charger that's going to help this one person. That's tough. And so that was always the response for us, was like, why would we spend everybody's resources on something that's only going to benefit one
or two people,
one person? And so we developed a new program that's just been such a hit in those types of applications, and it's something we're really excited about, which is just if they don't have the resources or they don't want to spend the resources, it's like all they have to do is give us permission to set up some stations on their property, and we will take that burden on for them. We don't charge them. They tell us where we can put the chargers. We set them up, and we serve those residents that want to get an EV or have an EV. What's so cool about that is just watching the growth of the usage and the number of drivers of these properties over time. I mean, again, I said I had access, to a lot of data. That's been something that's been really exciting for us to see, is just by virtue of the stations being at these properties, so many people, maybe they're not going out the next day after the charger's installed, but when their lease comes up, or when it comes time to get a new car, they're switching to an EV, and they're doing it because of the station that we put in, that we made possible, by offering to cover the cost for the for these applications. So that's something that's really exciting for me. The other thing is, obviously, what comes along with that and having your own network is the ability to kind of have some fun with the software side. And so, we now have our own mobile app, and we're doing things on the development side that will be released very shortly that are just, and for you and me, we're kind of like gamer nerds too. So we love certain elements of the technology experience that uh, that we're more familiar with, like kind of having grown up in that environment, right? And so we want to bring some of that to the charging experience and have some fun with it, because and make it more positive, more enjoyable. Because right now, I mean, any charging station platform that I've ever used in the history, almost 10 years of having an electric car, I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, it's just been lame. Like you have these
lame. It's boring.
I would say you have these billion-dollar companies, but they're not $1 billion anymore. Like some, I won't name names because again, I try to stay neutral here. There are companies, and we may install for some of these people, so I don't want to, for fear of offending, powerful part. No, and you look at the charging experience with some of these apps, and these are companies who have been had an app for a long time, and they're more of a software enabled company. Like that was their first focus, was software, and I'm like, I could do two very easy things to their and like make it way better. And so and nobody's doing these things. And finally, I'm just like, you know what, we're gonna have our own network, and that came about as a result of our desire to serve these multifamily properties, and create these solutions that didn't currently exist in the market for them. So not only to make the driver experience at the properties better, but also just make the actual charging experience for the individual at the charger better. And so really excited about that. So in terms of hopes and dreams, I mean, we want to change the game in terms of how people think about that experience. And because we're dealing with communities, you can do some very interesting things on that front. So really excited about that. And then also, I think just helping enable, the federal government's push towards electrification. I mean, they've committed to electrifying their fleets for their I mean, that is super exciting. And
it's a massive undertaking.
Us getting to play a role in that is fantastic. And so the opportunity to be selected for that, and one of a very small handful of contractors that were selected, for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of deployment. And not only that, I mean, we're the top rated contractor, right? So the government, I didn't even know they did this. They did like a power ranking of, all the
that was surprising to hear.
Selected contractors, and we were the only ones to get an excellent rating in terms of our, capabilities, management team, experience, all that kind of stuff. They checked our references, all of that. I mean, the government definitely did their homework, but to get the top rating among a very small group of contractors that were even selected for that was I mean, it was a highlight for me, right? Like, it's just super cool. And now we've started, helping them with that. So down the road, like when the entire government fleet has been converted to electric, for us to be able to look back and say, like, we
got the stamp.
We helped make that happen. Like, we played a very large role in this. Like,
that's history in the making,
super,
right? I mean,
yeah, super exciting for me too. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot in store. And this is still kind of only the beginning. We're continuing to expand too. I mean, that's part of the fun as well, is like getting to get to a point where you go, man, I think we should open another office. Let's see where the opportunity is. Okay, we're going to open. I mean, we just opened an office in Austin. We opened one in Charlotte. We're like looking for our next expansion. Like all of this is so exciting, and being able to kind of like replicate the success that we had in Atlanta. And being able to bring that to other places, and now bring charging to those communities, while also serving our big national partners in a really exciting way. That's a lot of fun too. I know. I could talk about this forever. In terms of my excitement over the future of the industry and the company. There's one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't touch. So this will be the last one that I touch on.
Lay it on me. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Because this is so important to me, and I'm gonna have to get on the soapbox here, but I like we did our kids a disservice when we told them you have to go to college and get a college degree, and that's the only path, and you have to get all this debt, and it's seen as like less than to go into a trade or a technical line of work, and that's like infuriating to me. That if a kid told his mom or dad like, oh, I'm gonna go work at the factory, that like that's seen as some sort of a negative, right? And I think there are so many kids in our country that would be so much better served going into a trade than into going to school for 2 years, getting a bunch of debt, dropping out, and then like basically having a lifetime of debt that they now have to pay off, and
just to make that status quo.
And so I'm not saying that everybody should drop out of college or not go to college and get it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there is a very real segment of the population, and this is for me. Like, I wish I had been exposed to the trade sooner. Like, it would have. I mean, I love electrical work. This idea of like building something and like having a useful skill and building something that people can use and enjoy. It's like, it's tradespeople like make like the building that
everything
we're in right now, the houses that people live in, like and the fact that 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 profession is somehow seen as less than getting what I'm not going to rag on a degree like a liberal arts degree. Like, I have a liberal arts degree, so I guess
there you go.
I can
you
say
can.
I'm allowed to say that. Like, that somehow that's less than like getting a liberal arts degree. Like, so I think like, if for the future, if I could play some part in changing that narrative, like that would be like an ultimate dream for me. It's like if I could find a way to expose more kids to these kids who otherwise might have ended up going to college and dropping out, or would never have known how fun and exciting and cool working a trade skill in a trade might be, and having that skill. I mean, think about it. Like, if you're an electrician, like, I mean, you understand how electricity works. You can wire up things at your home. You can, I mean, there's so many things that you can do with that skill, and it's so useful. Versus, I think about all the things and all the classes I took in college, and like how much more useful like learning an electrical trade is than that.
I can't tell you the last time I used a kiln.
Or carpentry or plumbing or anything. I mean, it's so necessary.
Exactly.
And all of that aside, I think part of how we might be able to go about doing that would be, I mean, part of it, I think, is just getting the word out about the opportunity. Because the truth is, like, you can make a lot of money as an electrician, and you can get paid to learn that skill, and you have no debt. And everybody's complaining like, oh, I can't buy a house or whatever. Like, if you didn't have a bunch of debt from going to college, and you learned something like electrical trade, I mean, shoot, like within a few years you could be making six figures with no debt. And then, not to mention the entrepreneurial opportunities, right? Like, I mean, look at what we're doing at EnviroSpark. Like, this is super cool, and it's enabled by the fact that we know how to build charging infrastructure. We know how to engineer it. We know how to run the conduit. We know how to pull the wire. We can do all of this stuff. And I mean, that's really cool. It's just this incredible opportunity. And so, and even like going back to the factory side, I mean, you go to like I mentioned SK Battery earlier. Like, if you go to their plant, it is not the same way our office is not what you would think of when you think of a general contractor or electrical contractor.
Right.
They're not, their plant is not what you think of when you think of a factory. It is, you're not like doing some manual like thing over and over again at SK. Like, you are controlling robots and doing all this really cool, exciting, interesting stuff, and you're learning very unique technical skills. And you're running the machines, and you're operating this, but you're not just doing a manual and it's super clean too. Like, when you think of a factory, that's what I'm saying. This like connotation when you say factory
think dirty,
worker,
smoldering,
a
bunch of dust.
It is like ultra clean.
Eat off the floor.
So, so it's like you have to expose people to that, to change that, and show them that whatever their previously held belief was around, and again, the earning potential.
Oh, it's monumental.
Like, you get that skill to be able to operate those machines that are responsible for making the batteries that power the vehicles of the future. Like, that is a very good skill to have.
No kidding.
There's going to be a need for electric vehicle batteries for
Quite some time.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
and
And the mines to pour into the development.
The R&D,
better and longer
everything else.
lasting ones.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Ton
I
of potential.
think like you want to talk about the future in a dream. For me, it would be, figuring out how to change that narrative and how to expose, our youth at an early age to this, just to see if it's something that might spark some, some interest and some desire to get involved, right? It's like, it's like the kid who wrote the code for some new program. It's like the only reason he knew how to do it was because, he came across some book that, it was like computer coding for dummies or whatever, and that kid read it and he got exposed to it and he's like, oh man, this is super cool.
Inspired.
And then you get into it, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's like, how do we create that moment for, and maybe not, like another kid could come across a book and go, I'm not interested in that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But like until you get exposed to it, you would never know whether or not that might be a passion for you or speak to you. And I would just, I would argue that showing our youth like how exciting and how sexy this space can be, and the opportunity that it affords for you to make a good living, make an impact in the world. Like that's the other thing. Like our youth, I feel like does care a lot about sustainability and making the world cleaner and better. And climate change is important. There's this whole demographic that's cares very much about the eco side of politics, and
taking care
else.
of what we have here.
And so like
absolutely.
it's an incredible way to do that, and a rewarding way to do that, and a way to do it where you don't end up indebted your entire. That's what I'm saying. If I could save some percentage of kids from a lifetime of debt and unhappiness, I mean, whatever. Again, maybe I'm idealistic. I'm on the soapbox. I'm just gonna say it. Like it's the same way I feel like if all of our chargers, like people are using them and enough cars have switched and there's not CO2 getting put into the atmosphere, or into our city or urban center here in Atlanta, if like one less kid gets asthma, then man, we've done something.
We've done
super
a good
cool.
thing. That's
so like
right.
if one less kid is saved from a lifetime of debt, with a dead end degree or whatever, like we have done something truly cool and truly important and impactful. So that's I'll conclude with that for the question about our kind of vision for. I hope that answers.
It certainly does, and then some. And I honestly, I think that's what a better way than stepping off your soapbox now to end it. That I think got some really good inspirational stuff. I couldn't agree more with you. Aaron here is not just a person who cares about the environment, the world around us, and creating a better future. But this industry, this company has truly benefited from that vision. I think today we got to hear a little bit more about that. And not just somebody who cares about the EV industry, but the future of the future of our nation, our world, and then the lives of our children. Said as a newer father myself, I care already so deeply about the world that I'm going to leave behind for my son, and the future that he might be able to pursue. So
I'll go. Yeah, I appreciate you doing this, Kevin. This was fantastic.
So much fun.
I'll go to my grave cursing the universe for having me be born at a time where we have sufficient technology to know about the universe and know what's out there, but not sufficient technology to go there or to actually know how it works. And
maybe the kiddos can. Yeah,
exactly.
We'll see.
And so if I can help us further on that path, or at least make the world livable so that some people can get to that path at some point.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what, if it happens in our lifetime, fantastic. Have fun up there. Just bring back the footage and I'll do it on VR. I'm not going to be the first one to sign up. But.
Well, so it's funny you mentioned it. Was like, and I have a question for you. So when people say, there are people who are looking at, trying to figure out how we can expand beyond Earth, right? And there's two sides to that point, right? There's people who say, oh, well, you know, why don't we just fix the problems here? Why before we try to like, you know, go do this, like, and then there's other people who say like, there's any number of things that could happen here. And maybe I feel like in order to be neutral, I have to use the same voice. There's any number of things that have, you know, that could happen here that, you know, we couldn't control. Whether it's an asteroid, well, maybe we could now. Who knows? But like, you know, insert apocalyptic scenario here, right? Like some super virus, you know, asteroid, you know, planet-sized, you know, whatever, you know, zombie
cosmic ray,
zombie
even
apocalypse,
whatever, solar flare,
whatever the case may be, right? Like if this is the only place where we live, you know, then and it's a life-ending or, you know, extinction event, like what do you got to show for it at that point? So what's your take on that? Do you kind of side with the folks who say, you know, well, we should just pour everything
sit here and write it out, or
well, we should pour everything into fixing all of our issues here? Although Elon Musk had a funny response. It was some similar question like that. You know, they were talking about him taking some amount of money he could solve world hunger or something. He said, well, send me the plan, and if it looks good, it was something like that, I'll do it, right?
That's great.
It was something like
that,
you know. But no, but what's your take on that?
That's a great question. You know, what's funny is, as much as I love this stuff as well, no one's ever asked me that before. But in thinking about it, I think it does make sense to explore further, right, and see what else is out there. There's naturally going to be a group of people who either are yay or nay, for it or against it. Some folks are going to sign up to be the first on board. Like I said, I might not be the first or second, maybe the third row who goes up. But there's going to be a lot of folks who are just gung-ho to go and establish something new somewhere new, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that naturally is also going to create an amazing pocket of opportunity here to fix those things that are broken. So I don't personally believe that it has to be one or the other, right? I think
it's a good answer.
I think being able to pursue the new things in the universe that are out there, and you know,
think about all the technology that might come about as a result of trying to achieve.
Well, we're not bound by the same science that we are here on this planet, right? Maybe gravity's different, and that allows us to do some further and more unique testing that could improve a lot of functionality here.
Gravity's the same. It's the mass.
The mass,
the object.
Well, gravity's just a theory, technically.
Actually. But no, I mean, that's the beauty of science is actually gravity. You know, it does.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to be the pedantic.
No, you're right. That's fair.
But no, it's like, you know, that's the beauty of it, is it works the same. But to your point, yes, there would be different conditions that might allow you to learn things that you otherwise
maybe some new elements and things of that nature. That
and like the technology you have to develop to be able to undertake something like that. I mean, you know, I mean, it's either that or a war. I mean, that's where all your where all the greatest technological developments come out of, like times of extreme adversity and you know, life or death scenarios is when that comes. So, you know, and you mentioned that, you know, I guess I'm not allowed to be on the first row anymore, the first rocket out, because, you know, I got a wife and kids now, and so, you know, different priorities. Stephanie, that's one area where we're actually not aligned. You know, hopefully she won't mind me sharing this story, because you know, she's like, yeah, I just, you know, she knows that, like, if I had the chance, like if something happened to her or something, I had the kids, and like there was a chance to go to Mars, like I'd try to take. She's like, my sons will not be Martians. You know, I mean, you know, because it's dangerous, right? I mean, you will likely die. I mean, think about the settlers to the New World. Like, most of them didn't make it.
Those folks didn't make it.
I'm just saying, yeah, like, it would probably be like that, but worse, right? Mm-hmm. And so, for me, the thought of, like, yeah, I know I'm probably not going to make it, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And if I don't, I still think that, like, the lessons learned about whatever it was that did kill me or created some excruciating death for me, like, if those lessons learned help the next group do better or succeed where I failed, then I feel like there's no more noble cause. Maybe there is.
That's a pretty good stamp on history either way.
There could be a more noble cause.
Eternal optimist over here.
But
Look
I'm
at that.
saying, like, I feel like if I die trying to settle Mars, like, I have played my part in trying to help advance
That's fair enough.
society.
I
So,
wish you the best of luck
yeah.
on that, being on the first front row seat. No, that's wonderful.
I just don't think people realize like how precarious, like the knife's edge, the razor's edge that we are on, here on Earth, and like any number of possibilities that could end humanity and or all life like tomorrow. I mean, there's just so many potential scenarios that would just, and so I think like if you, that's where the debate is, right? I think if you could figure out how to be a multi-planetary species, you've given life a chance to continue in the event that something happens here.
Whether to make it better here or there or just all across,
So again, like I understand that I am also like ultra idealistic, and I keep thinking like as I get older, maybe that's gonna like go away. Like I feel like usually that's when you're younger, you're more ideal, and then you get like soured to the
grouchy old guy with the hose in the front yard.
Yeah, like I'll be like the guy on Grumpy Old Men one day. We'll be.
I'm excited to be that guy.
But I don't know. For me, I feel like there's still hope and feeling like I have a role to play. It's exciting, and
you're not alone, man. Just this conversation has encouraged me to, like we're saying, there's so many things that could just end it in a heartbeat, right? But why not just live each moment in the now and appreciate what we got? Try it. Plan for the best, right? And make a better future for our children and their children down the line. We got more time here on the rock. Let's make it good.
Well, that's a good point too. I mean, just at a personal level, it's the same way, right? Like, nothing's ever promised, right? So make the most of it. But yeah, I think like the Earth is like in that same spot as an organism, right? Like, so yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
This was great, man.
I
really
enjoyed
awesome.
It. Well, I appreciate you. This has just been a great time. I've learned a lot, and it's just good to spend some time with you also. Always good. And so quick shout out for EnviroSpark right here. You guys can find the link in the description below, but EnviroSparkEnergy.com. You heard some cool things here today. If you're in that market, maybe you own some property and you think, gosh, I could use some EV chargers out here. This could really help my residents or just the customers or, folks who come to my park or whatever the case may be. Go ahead and get in touch. All the information's in the description down below. I know they would be eager and happy to help. But Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute blast, and I hope we get to do it again soon. Yeah, and be on the lookout for my book, Donut Diplomacy, which will be available Amazon link below. Fine bookstores. That's right. TM Donut Diplomacy. No, I got to give credit to Stephanie. Actually, that was her title. So co-founder, co-author. I'll be the co-author. She can be the original author. I'll draw some neat pictures for you guys. But you look at how many sales like how-to books are out there, like people showing you how to pedal your wares. Like I think why not have another one? Well. So well, that was it for the inaugural episode of the Lightning Rod podcast. I appreciate you being here. I hope you learned something new and had a good time doing it. Before we go, just to remind you, bright ideas begin with a spark. Or the start. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That wraps up part 2 of my conversation with Aaron Luque, the CEO and founder of EnviroSpark Energy Solutions. Shout out, sponsor of the channel. Appreciate you guys, and appreciate you, Aaron, for taking the time to sit and chat. I could have spent all day with him, not just because of the great insight that he gave to how we are increasing charging infrastructure throughout the country and the world, but even that glimpse into the future. Maybe one day there's going to be an opportunity to have EV or something similar charging in the stars. Who knows? But I want to know your thoughts, so make sure to leave a comment down below and answer this quick question for me. Where do you see the EV industry in 5 years? Do you think we're going to be carbon neutral? Everybody's driving around in EVs. Do you think we're still going to be struggling to get there? Or do you think something new is on the horizon? Curious to know your thoughts. And quick plug for EnviroSpark. If this really resonated with you, and maybe you're a property owner, either of an apartment complex, condo, or heck, even a mall, they'd love to hear from you. Their website is www.EnviroSparkEnergy.com. Phone number is going to be there in the description as well, folks, as long as they're Instagram. Make sure to follow them. They're always posting great reels. Some of them are funny and really engaging. They'd love to talk to you and help you out. So thank you guys so much for hanging out and listening to this conversation. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more. We got a great video coming out soon covering my reactions to the Rivian R2, R3, and R3X. You guys have been wonderful. I've been Kevin. This is the Lightning Rod. We'll catch you up next.